Have you ever wondered how to make these vintage style piped buttercream cakes? Today I'm going to show you exactly how to make this one with all the tips and tricks and techniques you're going to need so that you can do it too. Before we get to the video, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up if you want to see more just like it. Also in the description box below, you're going to find everything you're going to need to make this cake as well. All right, let's get to it. To start off your vintage Valentine's Day cake, what you're going to need is one batch of Swiss meringue buttercream, 4-inch square cake, which is chocolate. My chocolate recipe is going to be in the description box below. And I've also got a 4-inch round cake, and this is going to make our heart. Some simple syrup, and this is 1/4 sugar to 3/4 water. A batch of salted caramel. And what I'm going to do is flavor this with salted caramel, and then I'm also going to add some salted caramel in the middle of the heart. So it's a really delicious, ooey gooey center. Don't add the salt to my caramel. I like to add it. As I mentioned, we are going to be making a heart out of our 4-inch square and 4-inch round cakes. So first step is to, of course, bake 2 cakes. Next step is going to be to cut this round one in half. So the way we make our heart cake is just by placing the square cake with the points facing up and down, and then just add these 2 little heart lobes on the side. And there is your little mini heart. Let's start with a dab of buttercream in the middle. So let's add our square. Put a tiny bit of buttercream inside just so that it sticks. Doesn't have to be a lot. Next, we will put our salted caramel buttercream into the middle. Don't forget your simple syrup. So I just put a thin layer of this. Don't need to soak it if your cake is moist already. Let's put a generous amount of that buttercream since it's only 2 layers, and spread it out to the edges. Use our small offset to make a little edge all the way around so that we can fill it with the salted caramel. So I've got my caramel here. It's nice and liquid, and I will just pour that in. That looks good. Let's add our salt. So I'm just spreading this into a fairly even layer. Let's add our square cake on first. You should see the caramel is not leaking out at all. It's contained within the cake area. And then grab your little lobes, put a tiny bit of buttercream on those, and then stick that on. And it definitely does not have to look perfect at this point. Just make sure everything is adhered nicely together. Let's put our simple syrup on top, give it a crumb coat, and then pop it in the fridge until it's nice and firm. I've colored the rest of my Swiss meringue buttercream with a mixture of Color Mill red and purple. And now I'm going to mask this cake quickly, and then we can go ahead and pipe on it. We'll start with teardrop tip Wilton number 127. I did not chill this cake and scrape it like usual because it doesn't really matter if the edges are perfect, since we're going to be piping all over it anyway. So I'm going to start from the top of the heart, and I'm just going to make tiny wiggles with the piping tip in order to make a ruffle. So I'm just going up and down, just making a general ruffly shape here. It doesn't have to be perfect since we're going to add so many layers of piping. Stop whenever you need to and wipe off the edge of your tip. And always remember the fat side should be towards the cake. Then we'll continue just up and down until you get to the bottom. There is our first border. Let's do the same on the other side. Next, I want to do the same thing on the very top edge of the cake. So I'm going to align the tip just out from the edge of the cake and wipe off the tip before we get started. So just 1 millimeter or 2 out. And then you can begin Take your time with this. There's no need to rush. And let's get the other side as well. Now we switch tips to the Ateco 867, and we're gonna do a over piping. So all that means is I'm gonna pipe directly on top of that previous border. And the shape I'm gonna do here is just a shell shape. So if you are unfamiliar with the shell shape, then go ahead and check out my piping basics video, and that will take you through how to make all of the simple shapes that you need. So let's do this here. So just trying not to disturb our ruffle from before. So now it's just kind of peeking out, adding an extra little texture down there. Comment below and tell me if you want to see more buttercream piping tutorials. I know it's very trendy right now, so let me know. Gonna wipe this off and then we can go ahead and do the other side. So I'm gonna start also at the base, so the shells are going both outwards, away from the base of the heart. So good pressure and then release at the end. So I'm just gonna end it there. We are gonna pipe more here, but it's kind of bothering me. So I'm just gonna try and just fix it up a little bit. That's better. All right, I'm just gonna fill up my piping bag and then we can do the same around the top. Fill that up and clean off the edge. You always wanna make sure the edge is clean. Otherwise you're gonna get kind of like muddy, not so sharp lines. So just something to keep in mind as you're going, clean it as often as you need to. I think I'm actually gonna start at the top this time and then work my way down so we kind of have a point. And I'm gonna go about half on and half off of that ruffle. And keeping your bag always at a 45-degree angle towards the cake while you're doing these shells. And always make sure you are comfortable when you're piping. So if it's in an awkward position, you're never gonna get the shapes that you want. So just make sure you always feel nice and comfortable. It's in a nice height. Your chair isn't too low or too high. So I've got a little gap here. I think I will just do one shell like this, right in the middle. And now we are switching tips again to a smaller star tip. So unfortunately I forgot to film this star border in here, but it's exactly the same kind of shell border that we did with the larger shell, and I just inserted the piping tip kind of into that little edge between the cake and the fatter star border. That was with an Ateco 823 tip. And now we've moved on to a PME tip number 44, and we're doing a rope border with this. So I've already started a little bit here, and all I'm doing is little circles, like a little spiral going all the way around the cake, right above our fat shell border. Take a pause whenever you need to. I got some buttercream on the edge here, so I want to wipe that off and just pick right back up. I'm using my left hand to steady my right hand, which is doing the piping. Pretty tricky on a heart-shaped cake just because you have to keep turning it. So that is done on one side. I think I'm gonna come down this side to complete the rope. So just tiny circles right on top of that previous border. Try and keep the circles the same size. You can always practice this on your work surface or on a piece of parchment paper first. And then just scrape the buttercream off and you can reuse it as long as it's a clean surface. So kind of like a little ugly part here, just go right over that with our rope. Then I'm gonna try and get all of this in one so that it doesn't look kind of broken up. Don't forget to breathe while you're doing this. It's very important. All right, let's see here. I think what I want to do is one more shell border right between where these two guys are meeting. And I want to use this same PME tip again. So let's do that. And I really want to make sure that I'm following like a nice heart shape this time, worrying less about where like the previous lines are. So I'm just paying attention mostly to making a nice heart with these little shells. Keep even pressure because with buttercream, you can really see if your pressure isn't even with the piping bag. It comes out of the piping tip a lot more quickly than royal icing. So you do have to be slightly more precise. And one shell right at the base there. And I think I'm going to do also a shell coming down here, just to kind of get a nice point on that heart. So I'm gonna go just from up here down this way. I think we're almost done here. It's getting pretty full. Let's see if there's any other areas that we want to add some piping to. I mean, we could always add more, but I think I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. You could always write a message in the middle as well if it's for your special somebody. And of course you could make it any color that you wanted. I made this monochrome pink, but you could make it red. You could make it literally any color under the sun, but it does look really nice in pastels. Now that I'm looking at it, this part is bothering me. So I'm gonna put a little heart there with this small piping tip. So it's basically just two shells put together. Perfect. And if there are any areas that you really don't like the look of, just add little hearts, or you can add just like small dots. Again, refer to that piping video, my piping basics video, for all of the techniques you need, all of the basic techniques, and you can make this cake too. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you did enjoy this video, and you can check out lots more videos just like this on my channel as well. Head down to the description box below if you want the tools and equipment list that you're going to need to make this cake, and I'll see you next time.